So we'll sing a very nice song. If you have your devices, first of all, put them on silent, and you can look up Braja Janamana. Lala, maybe better with the songbook. Lala? All right. Try without the songbook. Radhe Brajajanamana Sukhakari Radhe Shama 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 Radhe Brajajanamana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Mukita Makarabhista Kundala Gale Vaijandi Mala Sadanandupura Rasala Radhe Shama 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 Oh Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. Oh Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. Radhe Jagannath Das Babaji Radhe Shama Shama Shama. Jagannath Das Mohana Bamsi Bihari Radhe Shama 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 Mohana Bamsi Bihari Oh Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. Oh Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. Radhe Jagannath Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Shama. Vrindavan mein jai jai Gopi Jana Hari. Shri Govardhana Dari Radhe Shama Shama Shama. Shri Govardhana Dari Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. Oh Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. Radhe Jagannath Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Shama. Radha Krishna Muni Radha Gaura Viparakari. Kirtana Dharma Prachari Radhe Shama Shama Shama. Oh Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. So this is a very beautiful Braj song. Brajajana Mana Sukha Kari. Brajajan means the residents of Braj. And Sukhakari, who delights the hearts. Brajajana Man means the heart. Sukhakari, who delights the hearts of the Brajvasis. And who is that? Radhe Sham and Shama Sham. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dharati Swaparandiyam Adadanastrunandan Thaividam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Vadambujo Dhalisyam Janma Janmani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vairacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah. So today we're going to a very special place called Galtaji. Because there was one Ramanandi sadhu named Galta. And he was doing his penances there, just on the side of the hill. It's right up, little ways up the hill. Just as you're leaving Jaipur, then you turn in and you go back up the hill. A very, very dry place, but he was doing his bhajan there. Like all sadhus, sometimes he liked to go on pilgrimage. And he came to Ganga, and he took his bath in Ganga. And he was thinking, it would be so nice, because my ashram there in Jaipur is very, very dry. It'd be so nice if Ganga would appear there. So because of his great penances and austerity, she agreed to come there. But he said, well, how will I know that it's you? He said, you just throw your lota and your walking stick in my waters now. When you go back there, you remember me, and I will appear there in my lota, your lota and your walking stick will come floating in the water there. So he came back here to his ashram. He sat down, he began to remember Mother Ganga, and he was meditating on her. Immediately from the rocks, this water began to pour out. And it came his lota and his walking stick floating in the water there. So we go there, we'll see in this little valley there. Now they put a nice marble gomukh there. And you'll see the water is, how water is coming out from the top of a hill, we have no idea. Just imagine, it's almost at the top of the hill and the water is just coming out. The water's coming out and it pours into a big tank. Actually, there's like 7 tanks or something. There's one great big one where all the men take bath, and then they're down below. There's another tank for all the ladies, and so many different tanks there. And we'll see different temples are also there now. Very interesting place. A very natural place. And above, if you climb all the way up, they say there's a way to go by rickshaw. I don't know, we'll see. But you climb all the way up, you get a nice, beautiful view from the top of the hill, you get a view of Jaipur city. A very natural area. And I just looked this morning, I saw today is actually the disappearance day of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, and also, is it disappearance or appearance of Rasikananda?
Disappearance.
Both are disappearance, Rasikananda. So unfortunately I didn't have any time to prepare anything. Rasikananda was the chief disciple of Shamananda. So you may remember Shamananda Prabhu, his original name was Dukhi Krishna Das. And he was initiated by a disciple of Gauri Das Pandit. And he was known as Dukhi Krishna Das. Eventually he came to Vrindavan. He began to study with Jiva Goswami. And one time he asked Jiva Goswami for some special service. So Jiva Goswami told him, you just sweep the kunjas. So even just a simple menial service by sweeping, we're going to see what happened by this sweeping. We think that's for very low caste type of person sweeping. But anyway, Jiva Goswami gave him, you sweep the kunjas. So every day he was sweeping the kunjas. One day while he was sweeping, he saw this beautiful Nupur ankle bell in the dust. And as soon as he went to touch it, he saw it's very valuable. He went to touch it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Then he realized this is something very special, so he tied it in his cloth. Meanwhile, Radharani noticed that her ankle bell had fallen off in the kunj somewhere. So she told Lalita Sakhi, you go back and see if you can find it. So Lalita Sakhi was looking here and there and here and there, and she saw this fellow sweeping. So she thought maybe this fellow's seen. So she went to him, did you find any ankle bell while you were sweeping? He said, are you the owner? He said, no, but I'm the most confidential servant of the owner. He said, no, I found one, but it's very valuable. He's very clever. He said, I only give it to the owner, nobody else. He said, no, I'm the most confidential servant of the owner. He said, maybe, but it is very valuable. I will only give it to the owner. So she went back and told Radharani, it's like this. So then Radharani came there. He bowed down at Radharani's lotus feet, and he handed her this ankle bell. and she placed it on his head, and it made a mark like this, just like we have this leaf here that's full. It made a mark like this with the leaf that's empty. And then she took one bell and touched some of the dust on her lotus feet and put a little bindi, a little yellow bindi. And said, you have so much love for my Sham, your name will be Shamananda. And from her heart she manifested these beautiful deities of Radha and Sham Sundar. So if you go to Radha Sham Sundar temple, you'll see some big deities. That's not the ones. The ones on the right side, smaller deities, that's Radha Sham Sundar manifested from the heart of Srimati Radharani, Shamananda. So then everyone began to see that he had this speculation tilak, and he was calling himself by some speculation name, Shamananda. So everyone became very upset. What is this nonsense? And gradually the complaint went all the way to Bengal. Everybody speculated that Jiva Goswami has given him some speculation tilak and reinitiated him. So Gauridas Pandit, actually he was disciple of Gauridas Pandit, was Sridhar Chaitanya. So Sridhar Chaitanya came there with many, many Vaishnavas, and he was very upset. And he called a meeting and all the Vaishnavas came. And Jiva Goswami kept quiet. But they made all these accusations. And Sridhar Chaitanya asked him, who is giving you the sikh? Because Guru gives the tilak. He said, who is giving you the sikh? This is all your mercy, Maharaj. What do you mean my mercy? And he took some sand and he began to rub that sand on that tilak, to rub it off of his face. And the more he rubbed, the more brighter that tilak began to shine until it was all very shining bright. When all the Vaishnavas saw this, they were astonished. And Sridhar Chaitanya, he was also astonished. Then Jiva Goswami spoke and he explained everything that happened. Then they all fell down at Jiva Goswami's feet to please forgive us for this offense. So this was, he became Shamananda Prabhu and started one of the trees of the of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called Shamananda Sampradaya, where they had this tilak like this, very similar to the Nimarka tilak, but Nimarka tilak is more off to the side like this, and they have a black bindi, but this is a yellow bindi. So Shamananda's chief disciple was from some place in Orissa, I can't remember just now, and he was known as Rasikananda. And he made, he converted many, many people to Vaishnava faith, and everybody was very much attracted by him. Personally, I can't remember much about him, just one of the main pastimes was that he was becoming very famous. So there was one, I can't remember what they called him, he was some type of a Muslim priest. He became very envious of why this guy is getting so much fame. So he came to challenge him, riding on the tigress. And Rasikananda, he was sitting on a broken wall, and he was brushing his teeth with a neem tree. And everyone came and said, oh, this Daravesh or something like that. He's coming riding on a tigress. So Rasikananda, he didn't show any fear of that. After a while, that wall also began to gallop. He was sitting in the broken wall, brushing his teeth, and the wall began to gallop. And when the Daravesh saw that he was coming on a galloping wall, he said, well, I've tamed a wild animal, but he's tamed an inanimate thing. So he turned his tigress around and ran away. So this is a famous story of Rasikananda. That's about all I can remember about him. He was very... But if you go to Radha Shyam Sundar temple, they have, you can see on the right side, down below, that the big deities of Radha Shyam Sundar, I believe, the deities of Baladev Vidyabhushan. Oh, we forgot. Galtaji is also the place because one time, because at that time Jaipur was pretty much under the Ramananda Sampradaya. And still you find many Ramanandi temples here. So they objected that these Gaudiyas have no right to worship Govindadev because they are not a bona fide Sampradaya and they have no commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary. It's by Vyasadeva himself, so it's the best commentary. So he never wrote any commentary. But their idea was that without a commentary, you're not a bona fide Sampradaya. That time, they asked Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to meet this challenge. But he was very, very old, so he sent Baladev Vidyabhushan. So Baladev Vidyabhushan came and he tried to counter their arguments. They said, but they weren't going to accept anything without a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So he prayed to Govindadev. Govindadev told him, don't worry, you just sit in Kaltaji, I will dictate. So I think it was within a month's time, maybe 3 months' time, somehow or other, an amazing amount of time to write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. It's not an easy thing, but within 3 months, he had a beautiful commentary. And because it was spoken by Govindadev, it became known as Govinda Bhashya. So when he presented the Govinda Bhashya, then the king was sitting there, and he looked at all the Brahmanandis. He said, well, what can we say? And they were also upset because Govindadev's artik was before their artik. So anyway, they all became very quiet by this. So that Govinda Bhashya was written there also at Kaltaji. So it's also Jagannath Das Babaji's disappearance day today. And he, unfortunately, also I didn't study much. I just try to remember what I can. I just know that he left everything and he came to Braj. And I can't remember who he was initiated by. Anybody remember? But anyway, he did bhajan sometimes in Navadip, sometimes in Braj. Madhusudan Das Babaji. And Bhakti Vinod accepted him as his Siksha Guru. He very much appreciated Jagannath Das Babaji. So there's many stories. While he was doing his bhajan in Navadip, he had one disciple, Biharidas. So while he was eating his prasad, the little puppy dogs came, began to lick on his plate. And Biharidas tried to chase him away. He said, no, these are dogs of the Dham. Just imagine his vision. If the dog would lick off our leaf plate, then he would throw the whole plate. He said, no, these are the dogs of the Dham. And many wonderful pastimes with Jagannath Das Babaji. And finally, Bhaktivinoda had so much faith in Jagannath Das Babaji that by studying old ancient maps and discussing with different realized souls, he could understand that the present town of Navadvip was, very young city. In those times, it was a very young city. And because everyone was telling that the actual Yoga Pit had been lost in the shifting sands of the Ganga. But Bhaktivinoda wasn't satisfied. He began researching old maps and discussing with many realized souls. And eventually, just like if you go to the Yoga Pit, right next to that Yoga Pit is Balal Digi, which was dug out by Lakshman Sen, I believe. So that side was because the Qazi became upset by the the Martyr Brahmins anyway made a complaint that their kirtan is bothering and they're ruining our Hindu faith and everything. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made a big protest about this. So that was all in that near that Balal Digi. That's one proof. And many other proofs he found, but his final proof was he brought that time Jagannath Das Babaji. He was so old, they had to carry him in a basket. He couldn't walk anymore. So Artavanda, he's complaining about carrying all my books and everything, but maybe one day they have to carry me in a basket. So anyway, they brought with a big kirtan party. Bhaktivinoda came there with Bihari Das was carrying Jagannath Babaji in this basket. And as soon as they got to the place where the Yoga Pit was, Jagannath Babaji leapt 10 meters in the sky. He couldn't even walk, but he leapt up in the sky. Eto Nimai Janmatan, Eto Nimai Janmastan. This is the place of Nimai's birth. This is the place of Nimai's birth. And that place, that plot, happened to belong to some Muslim farmers, but they were upset with it because no matter what they planted, only Tulsi grew. So somehow Bhaktivinoda was able to purchase that place because it was worthless. You couldn't grow anything except Tulsi there. So therefore, in our pranam mantras, we Gaura Vivava Bhumi Swam. He was the one who showed the place of Gaura's Avibhav, the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya. And Bhaktivinoda built this beautiful temple there, Yoga Pit temple there, at this place. I'm sorry I didn't say. I just looked this morning and I saw, just before we were leaving, I looked on the Vaishnav calendar and I saw, oh, so I can't remember much else about Jagannath Das Babaji, but he was very, very renounced. He lived, actually there's another story because he was staying in Suryakund. It's a very beautiful place, not far from Govardhan, called Suryakund. And there's the place of Madhusudan Das Babaji Maharaj's place is there nearby. Because Madhusudan is famous that he was doing his bhajan there, and he was able to find, because this is a place where Radharani used to bathe before meeting with Krishna. So that one day he found when he was taking his bath, he found this Shila that has, this is Radharani would take off her Chandrika and place it on the stone. So the mark of Radharani's Chandrika is on that stone. You can go to Surjkund and you can see in the ashram of Madhusudan Das that stone is still being worshipped there. So he found this stone there. And another time, I can't remember how, some villager was going by with a bullock cart piled with bales of rice paddy, not just not the paddy, but the rice straw. And Jagannath Das Babaji told Bihari Das to go there and beg him for a cup, one bale of rice straw. So he went there, so that farmer, the Braj, everybody respects sadhus and sadhvis very much, so they immediately gave him that bale of rice straw. And when Bihari Das opened it up, this beautiful deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. Beautiful Astadhatu. He was so golden complexion that everyone thought he was made of gold. And Surajkund is a very far off place, desolate. Even now, if you go, there's hardly anything, tiny little villages there. So we can imagine, 300 or 400 years ago, it must have been a very desolate place. And even today, Braj is still filled with so many dacoits, so we can just imagine then. So the news went around that this golden deity, they used to call him Sonar Gauranga. He became famous as Sonar Gauranga. So one day some thieves came and they broke into Jagannath's bhajan kutir and they grabbed Sonar Gauranga, but when they got to the door of his kutir, somehow the deity became very heavy. He fell down right on the threshold and made a big sound. Bang! So all the thieves ran away, and Jagannath and Biharidas were alerted something's going on. They came there, they found the deity there. So then he told Biharidas, you go take him to Vrindavan, you find out some nice family in Vrindavan to watch over him. Here that's a big city, that's a big town. This is just a tiny place. So if you come out of Radha Gopinath temple in Vrindavan, and then right in front of the entrance is a road, you follow that road, way down almost at the very end of that road, on the right side, there's a temple of Sonar Gauranga. And you can see that beautiful deity. It's not really a temple, it's just like a house, because he just told Biharidas taking him to Vrindavan and gives you just some nice Brahmin family to worship. So just like tiny little temple is there, and this deity of Sonar Gauranga is there. And somehow his next deity that Jagannath got was one Sadbhuj Mahaprabhu. I've forgotten how that came to him. But that deity of Sadbhuj Mahaprabhu that he worshipped for many years, then he went back to Navadvip. His Samadhi Mandir is there in Navadvip. So when you're on the way to Radharaman temple, you'll see there's one doorway, there's two fish like this, the archway is made of two fish coming like that. Very beautiful carved stone archway. And you look inside and you see this painting of Jagannath on the wall. And you can know that's where the Sonar Gauranga of Jagannath Das Babaji. So you go inside and then they have the deity Sadbhuj Mahaprabhu there at that place. Just outside the wall of Nidhivan on the way to Radharaman temple. So our Sadbhuj Mahaprabhu is there. And in another famous incident, there in Radhakund, Suryakund, he began to even beg from the houses of the sweepers. Because generally the sadhus and brahs, maybe down to Vaishyas, they will do madhukari. Kshatriyas or Brahmins definitely will take Madhukari. But he was begging even from the sweepers. So all the Babajis became upset. What is this? What type of behavior is this? And Jagannath Das Babaji said, these people, every day they're sweeping the dust of Braj, this dust of Braj. Even with all the opulence of Vaikuntha, you can't buy 1 grain of this dust of Braj. These people have this dust of Braj in their hair, in their cloth, in between their teeth, everywhere. They're completely covered by the Braj. How they can be impure? You don't realize these are all gopis. He said, actually, they're all gopis. You don't know. That's when he left Braj. He got dissatisfied with the consciousness of the so-called Babajis there in Braj, so he came back to Navadvip and did his final pastimes in Navadvip. And beautiful Samadhi Mandir is there. The Bhaktivedanta Swami Charitable Trust has also fixed it up very, very nicely. So these are some of the things I can remember about Jagannath Das Babaji. So anyone has any questions or comments? Or some other pastimes of Rasikananda or Jagannath that anybody remembers? Oh, today is also Tamal Krishna's disappearance. So I was in Mayapur that time. And I remember he was having these nice kirtans up in his room in Mayapur. I remember he invited me to come up and he was so excited to see me because he'd been doing this studying in Oxford and all these things. And at SMU, and I was also thinking in Oxford. So anyway, I hadn't seen him for a long time, and he just embraced me like anything. He said, "I'm so happy to see you." He said, "Just to see you, to feel you, touch you." So he just embraced me like anything. We did nice Braj Kirtan there that evening. So, and then a few days later, he was gone. That was my last memory of him, just feeling so happy after being in this dry scholastic environment to be back in Mayapur and be with the devotees and have kirtan up in his room with all the Vaishnavas. That was my last memory of Tamal Krishna. And I have because he was one of the great generals. Prabhupada, of course, is the Senapati Bhakt, who was predicted by Bhakti Vinod and many others. But one of his commanders in chiefs of the Sankirtan movement was this Tamal Krishna Goswami, who I used to see, I would watch, and I could see his mind was always churning. And he was just completely meditating on how to please Prabhupada. Us, we're just thinking, wow, look at those gulab jamans. How can I get a couple of gulab jamans? That's our mind. Our mind is always thinking for somebody. I could see Maharaja's mind always just thinking how to please Prabhupada. And although it was extremely difficult to get land at Mayapur, especially Prabhupada's godbrothers were trying to make obstacles in every way. Somehow some land became available and Prabhupada sent Tamal because he knew if there's anybody who can do something, it's Tamal. He sent Tamal there. And those days buying property was very, very, at least in Bengal, it was very, very difficult. Every note of the cash that was given for the land had to be the serial number had to be noted down. Every single note. So some crazy laws were there. Anyway, somehow over late at night, he came back to Albert Road and gave Prabhupada the deed. He said, now the land in Mayapur is yours. And Prabhupada was so pleased with him. And we know that he created this, along with Sri Ram Maharaj, he created this Radha Damodar Sankirtan party that managed to distribute so much books because Tamal immediately understood that the best way to advance in Krishna consciousness is to please the spiritual master. And spiritual master is most pleased by book distribution. Prabhupada was always pushing on book distribution. So he created this huge party with so many buses. Not just, it started out, Vishnu John had this old San Antonio red city bus. I was there. I had been sent to Houston, and in Houston somehow I went to visit him in San Antonio, and he just got this big red bus. And he took out all the seats and eventually made a temple inside, and the deities were tied around the waist, so they became known as Damodar. Now those deities are there in Gita Nagari, Radha Damodar. So beautiful deities. But eventually Tabal made this huge Sankirtan party. They got the biggest maker of buses in America is Greyhound. So they got these old Greyhound buses and, put these beautiful, of course that Vishnu John's bus had Radha Damodar, but the other buses had beautiful deities of Gaur-Nitai. And they were distributing so much books. Of course, eventually we know they were stealing devotees from the temples and created a big problem. And then Prabhupada said, was trying to resolve the dispute between the temples and Tamal Krishna Goswami. And Tamal, in frustration, he said, well, I might as well just go to China and preach then. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's a good idea. And so, even now, we can't imagine in those days, it was very, very difficult to enter or preach in China. But I had the privilege of taking, those Chinese devotees are so sweet. And they just laugh. Their laughter is just like nectar falling. When I tell all the stories, they just laugh. Just like nectar falling. And I remember one of them was trying to do some Chinese cure because I have some few problems in this. Bodies always have problems. And she was putting, because they're very expert in acupuncture, so she was putting needles and she had, needles that had, piece of incense stuck around, twirled around them and lit the incense. And so I was there in my room with all these needles and incense burning everything. My wife walked in and said, what in the world is this? Anyway, they're so sweet, all these Chinese devotees. That was, he passed the test. Prabhupada said, yes, you go to China. He tried to get out of it in so many ways. And now I've had the privilege of taking the Chinese devotees on Prikrama. They're so nice, so sweet devotees. And my dear friend Radha Charan is there doing so many wonderful programs. And government knows, but they're, as long as we don't, preach against the government or anything, as long as we just, keep to just preaching about Krishna consciousness and stay out of politics, they're not bothering us, but they know we're there. But it's still very difficult. It's still going on but that was all impelled by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Somehow we never minded in Portland that he always took one or two devotees. Some of them, they're just people who were coming, were trying to decide whether they wanted to move into the temple or not. That they joined the bus, it was, I was fine, it was fine with me. We just loved it. Vishnu John and Tamal would come and we get to hear such preaching from all these senior devotees. We were always very, very happy. And so that Portland became one of the places that he was welcome to come. Most of America, the buses were welcome. But Portland was one of the places. So they always came. He was always very kind to us. In fact, we used to have somehow, right around January or so, there's one festival it's actually called Pusha Abhishek. But we speculated that it was just a misspelling. It was Pushpa Abhishek. But so we do these Pushpa Abhishek festivals in the middle of the winter, and so but that's the end. That's the month in Hindi is called Posh. So the Purnima is called Pusha. So it's Pusha Abhishek. It's Pusha Abhishek for the Posh Purnima, and it's actually done with ghee. But anyway, before I was president of Portland, there was a devotee there named Danavir, and so he wanted to do this Pushpabhisheka festival. But in the winter in America, there's no flowers anywhere. And Portland is famous as the Rose City. There's so many roses there. I remember my families would come from Chandigarh, where they're also famous for their rose garden. And I would take them all to see the wonderful rose gardens in Portland. And even have rose bhakts in Portland. Because if you want to obtain the best roses, you have to get them even before Mangalarti, because by after Mangalarti, you see the rose bhakts are already taking care of their roses. And just like we put an umbrella over Krishna, they have little umbrellas so the rain won't knock the roses apart. And just like Krishna is holding his flute, so we put this little stick for him to rest his arm. They have little twigs so that sticks holding the roses and such. Anyway, Portland is famous for its roses, so, but not in the winter. But anyway, Donovan wanted to do this Pushpabhisheka festival, so they made flowers out of toilet paper. The temple was on low budget those years. And I said, this is crazy. So I wrote to Srila Prabhupada that this Pushpabhisheka comes in the winter when there's no flowers here at all. Can we do this in June? In June in Portland, there's so many flowers everywhere and so many beautiful roses. And Prabhupada wrote back, yes, exclamation point. You may celebrate Pushpabhisheka in June as you have suggested. And just so happened that Tamal Krishna showed up and Vishnujan showed up with Radha Damodar. So we planned out this whole festival. We made I don't even know what chicken wire is, you know? You know chicken? This, so it's all like this, usually they keep the chickens, that's why they call chicken wire, keep them in one place, So anyway, we made this chicken wire house, and then we went around every vacant, in Portland is such a place, even vacant lots, there's so many roses, and we just got so many, hundreds of roses. And we had this beautiful park that's filled with special flowers, azaleas and rhododendrons in June. So this park was in full bloom, and we would build this chicken wire house, and then invite everyone to come, and everybody would put roses, those little spots, the wire is shaped like this, so you just put the roses in these little spots. So we would make this beautiful rose palace for Radha Damodar. And then we had, because many times the roses just fall apart, then we had tons and tons of petals. And we had everyone just throw rose petals over Radha Damodar. And then the rest of the afternoon, everybody was having rose petal fights with rose petal prasad. So every year, Vishnujan and Tamal used to come for that. Then I had one very dear friend named Sitaram. He was a disciple of Neem Karoli Baba. If you go backwards down the Prikramarg quite a ways, you come to, maybe you've seen Neem Karoli Baba's ashram is there, and there's a famous Hanuman temple there. So his name was Sitaram, but he met Prabhupada, and he told him, I'm worshipping Sitaram. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's very nice. He met Prabhupada. He used to come every Sunday, and we became the best of friends. And he was from a wealthy family from Switzerland. If you ever heard of Hilti Tools, he was a nephew of Uncle Hilti. So anyway, they're the biggest manufacturer of nuts and bolts and all types of tools, those type of tools in Europe. Anyway, I knew he was never going to completely surrender, but he would come every Sunday and he'd chant like a madman, and we danced together like madmen. We had a very special relationship. So one day he brought me this beautiful tambura for the temple. It was huge, like this. Usually there's little tamburas. This was a great big tambura from Ricky Ram, which was the company in Connaught Place where George Harrison used to buy his instruments. Hmm? And it had 5 strings. Usually tamburas, they only have 4 strings. Ding, 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 ding. This had 5, so ding, 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 ding. It was very amazing. So one day, Tamal came with his party. Tamal and Mr. John came with his party, and they saw this beautiful tambura. Hmm? And somebody came up to my office and said, "Hey, they got the tambura on the bus." So I immediately understood they were going to kidnap my tambura. And I had one devotee that even he was such a space case. Even Hridayana Maharaj, he said, Anubhavanandi, he cruises at 1,000,000 miles. He's, you know, people would come and and I'd say, we got this devotee, so, there's nobody like him. He says, nah, in Houston, we got this space case, you can't believe it. In Dallas, we got this space case. In New York, we got this space. And after spending 2 or 3 days, they say, Mandu, you're right. There's nobody like this guy anywhere. So I knew he wouldn't understand anything. He'd be oblivious to all the vibes. So I said, Anubhavananda, go down and get the tambura off the bus. So he went down and he picked up the tambura. Everybody was looking at him with evil eye, But he completely transcended everything. He walked off the bus, brother. I locked it up. And then Tamal came. And because this was a beautiful tambura with real ivory, decorations. The bridge was made of ivory. It was real nice, very first class. And he built this tiny little Vishnu John, this little tambura about this big with plastic, no ivory, but plastic, all painted red and blue and so many colors, and just a tinny sound. He was trying to tell me that we'll trade you tamburas. And I said, but Maharaj, this is not mine. It belongs to the temple. It was given by a very dear friend of the temple. I can't give away temple property. It was given, and especially he's one of our donors, and I can't. And he said, no, but this is empowered. This is empowered by Vishnu. Somehow or other, I have the distinction of being one of the few people who defeated Tamal Krishna. I didn't sleep that night, but we managed to keep that tambura. So, and then he bought that place in Vrindavan just by the Prikrama Marg, and he'd always often invite me to come there to take prasad with him, and he's always so particular about prasad. He knew everything. So he learned from all the Bengalis. You have to eat this one first, and then you have to take this, and then you take that, and then you do this, and then you do that. He knew the exact order of everything, And we would sit with him and have so many wonderful times together. And in that house, now they built a big, huge guest house there and everything. But he used to also always invite me over there. So today is his disappearance day, and he left in the Holy Dham. Somehow or other, we won't discuss all that, but he has now they have a beautiful Samadhi Mandir there in the Samadhi garden by Prabhupada's Samadhi. So this is Tamal Krishna Goswami's disappearance day today. Oh yeah, I told yesterday his sannyas was here in Radha Govindaji temple. Prabhupada gave him sannyas here in Jaipur. So I think it's getting late and we have to. Because Gautam is not far away. I just looked, it's just 4 or 5 kilometers away. So. But very beautiful natural place. Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Tamangi Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.